And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. They told us that it was not appropriate to produce a video with no shirt. However, we read the YouTube terms of service, and there's nothing in there. This is a 24-hour video of the closest star as the large solar flare watch continues because of that active setting sunspot in that southwestern limb, which would be your lower right of your screen. Significant degradation has not occurred of those magnetic fields, and as a result, we could indeed see an X-class flare, or even multiple events. Of course, it is quite unstable down there. As you can see, we did have a nearly X-class event in the past 24 hours. These are 30 frames per second videos, 24-hour time duration, mostly for May 1st, 2024. Pardon our absence yesterday, but there are many things going on behind the scenes at the Smash News Network. And let's take a really close look at sunspot 3654. It will remain the T-mass, or most active sunspot, and the chance of an X-class solar flare will not diminish until about 48 hours from now, at least 36 hours. As we are well aware on the channel that sunspots that are already out of sight set behind the solar limb are perfectly capable of still producing large solar flares. And let's briefly take a look at a 48-hour. There's a 48-hour video for you. And it is the house favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. Of course, there's been some interesting volcanic activity going on for the past 24 hours, so let's briefly take a look at that. And it's not just Ruang, it's also Shivaluch. So there's Shivaluch producing quite a large plume of ash there, ash and gas. Shivaluch, located on the Kamchatka Peninsula. And here's what happened at Ruang yesterday. At 12:50 p.m., everything was fine, and then all of a sudden, by 2:50 p.m., stratospheric aerosol injection begins. By this point, the ash plume was at about 63,000 feet of altitude. You can see that cloud flattening out there as it reaches the tropopause. The barrier between the troposphere and the stratosphere. Since then, things have calmed down, but it's still listed as a 45,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Whoopsies. Pardon my fast scroll. All right. Yeah, so Shivaluch continues to erupt. Luatobe, Semeru, Ruang, shown as a 45,000-foot volcanic ash plume there. As sulfur dioxide, carbonyl sulfide, volcanic ash, possibly even water vapor, gets sent all the way to the stratosphere. Sancho Guido, not sure about that one. Fuego's exploding. Flight level 160 over Guatemala. Nevado de Ruiz, new volcanic ash there, fertilizing the area in Colombia. Sangay, producing a 21,000-foot ash plume as it explodes. Also Revenador and Sabancaya. Earthquake activity has been pretty calm for the past 24 hours. Here are the 5 and greater magnitude quakes, starting with this 5.0 at Chile. That one at depth, over 100 kilometers estimated depth. Some minor activity at Hawaii. South Shetland Islands, deep in the Southern Ocean, have had a 5.0. And that is all of 5 and greater magnitude quakes. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux, getting back to space weather stats here, is at, good question, 127? 130 solar flux units. So that is the past year. Black line is the radio flux. Red line is the sunspot number. Blue line is the AP index. And let's just take a brief look at the comparisons of solar cycle 25 to previous cycles. So here you'll see the green line representing solar cycle 25, which is now a stronger cycle at this point throughout the cycle progression than cycle 16, cycle 12, cycle 14, and cycle 24. Will it break out and become a more active cycle than solar cycle 23? And will it reach a smoothed peak higher than the smoothed peak of cycle 16? Let us know in the comments what you think. Space Weather Enthusiast Dashboard doesn't think anything exciting is going to happen in the next 3 days, except a little bit of geomagnetic unrest early tomorrow morning. So it looks like ESA is forecasting a couple of coronal hole high-speed streams. Besides that, not a lot going on, although I think there's one more CME rolling in. So one is actually striking right now, barely just a glancing blow. It's not very much, but we'll get to it here in a minute when we show the solar wind data. So there are our Enlil spirals. That's NOAA's Enlil spiral, and NOAA is expecting an impact at stereo A for a coronal mass ejection, just not at Earth. As far as ESA, those are 2 coronal hole high-speed streams that their model is showing there. So the first one expected to arrive on the 4th, and the second one to arrive on the 6th into the 7th. So, yeah, and ESA's forecast there is correct, except there's one missing CME in there, I think. That should arrive in the next, 12 hours as well. So we thought we saw 2 that were earthly directed there, and one, like I said, is hitting right now. So here are the past 4 hours of Earth magnetic moment from space. Geomagnetically calm conditions here on planet Earth. The geospace magnetosphere movie depicts magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And again, we just did have a recent minor CME impact, which could be affecting how that looks. Again, that's the past 4 hours. From the ground level, that's what things are looking like. We may see geomagnetic unrest or even minor geomagnetic storm conditions pop up here in the coming 24 hours. So for you aurora chasers out there, there is some minor chance of seeing mid-latitude auroras. And latitudes at the Arctic regions will be pretty normal, considering the incoming solar wind. So, KP is 1.33. That's the average of global geomagnetism, folks. KP 1.33 is the KP index. And as far as the spacecraft out orbiting Lagrangian point 1 measuring solar wind, so you can see this CME impact. It's mainly just a change in plasma temperature. Besides that, not a lot different in terms of the velocity or the density, although we did see it reach about 16 protons per cubic centimeter there at the ACE. Moving to the Discover, it reached up to about 20 protons per cubic centimeter. But a similar change there. No big changes in the solar wind features. Mainly just a plasma temperature change. Current conditions are just under 13 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density. Solar wind velocity only 355 kilometers per second. That is a pretty slow solar wind and not particularly dense. So there are our GOES magnetometers in their geosynchronous near equatorial orbits. We have seen some pretty rapid swings there, as there have been some transient coronal mass ejections rolling into planet Earth for the past few days, and you can see those gyrations in the magnetic fields measured at the outer Van Allen belts, the GOES 16 and GOES 18's magnetometers. As far as heliospheric magnetic sectors, Earth is in a North Pole-oriented sector, where you can expect to remain here for a couple of days. Here's our line of sight field plot. If you don't know what that depicts, just let us know in the comments. Perhaps even our viewers will fill you in. Here's our line of sight coronal hole plot. And these National Solar Observatory movies feature 4 days. We've got predominantly North Pole-oriented coronal holes here on the Earth side of the disk. Let's take a look at those from the perspective of the SDO. But first, the past 24 hours there in spectacular 171 angstroms. And let's don't forget 304 angstroms. All right, yeah, now coronal holes. There we go. There are coronal holes from NSO. And there they are from SDO. So this one transequatorial coronal hole and the one to its northwest, those are both North Pole oriented. Should pose no real surprise to our regular viewers, who we invite to have a better understanding of what's going on with the closest star. Next, sunspot. Sunspot number here has moved just up over 100. Now it's at like 104. 104 sunspots, we'll call it, is the current sunspot number, 104. Again, likelihood of large flares is very high, especially from sunspot 3654. 3654, it's an easy number to remember. Before we get to that stuff, let's take a look at some more SDO imagery. Here's the HMI instrument. And the uptick in sunspot number mainly from that group in the southeast. So it has grown a little bit since yesterday. We'll mainly focus on sunspot 3654. And there it is in exquisite detail. Also, its magnetic fields, the HMI instrument's magnetogram from Solar Dynamics Observatory. And we'll also show the AIA 171 angstroms wavelength. That ain't bad. And thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Don't go anywhere because we've barely gotten started with our space, weather, and meteorology segments. Next move is energetic particles and solar flares. So there goes proton flux, no spikes, but if we do see a big flare from sunspot 3654, don't be surprised to see a spike in the proton flux. Basically, we have a solar energetic particle watch in accordance with our solar flare watch. So there are the past 3 days. Again, we did have a nearly X-class event. It was an M9.5 class solar flare. More recently, we had a somewhat long duration, about an M2 class. Solar system forecast is next. People want to know where stuff is. So here's where it is today. Here's where it'll be a week from today. Looks like new moon is going to be falling on the 8th. May 8th is new moon, 1 week from today. So be prepared, reverse werewolves, to sleep well and stay in at night and be diurnal and be a happy, functional member of society who does not cannibalize humans. Next, you know, the werewolf is actually a symbolism of Satanism. You realize that, right? It's taking the beast, invoking the beast into your physical and spiritual form. Werewolf, you know, it's embodiment of the beast. It is symbolic of Satanism. Anyway, this is what's going on overhead right now. The sun is chasing Mercury and Venus across the sky. And if you're up before dawn, you might be able to see Mercury and Venus in your early morning sky. If you have low light pollution and a low horizon especially, perhaps check that out. And check this out. It's the Fishhead Nebula. That's our astronomy photo of the day. Located in the constellation Cassiopeia, I think. Yeah, the Fishhead Nebula. And what the colors are representing there, those are chemical spectra. So the red is hydrogen, of course. The blue is oxygen, and the green is sulfur, indicating a highly molecularly rich cloud there. A rich molecular cloud featuring lots of heavy metals. Yeah, did you know that oxygen and sulfur are considered metals in the realm of cosmology? Yes. Everything to the right of helium on the periodic chart is considered a metal in cosmology. So lithium on up. Sulfur and oxygen, they're considered metals in cosmology. So it's IC 1795. If you want to read about it more, apod.nasa.gov. Let's go to CMEs next, and we have this spectacular one out of the west, and sadly it's not earthly directed. We were hoping it was, but through careful analysis of the existing data, sorry, Aurora Chasers, that one's not earthly directed. It's fully off in that southwesterly direction. And I think we have some imagery of it here. There it goes. Popping off early this morning at about 6:30. Yeah, not earthly directed. Terribly sorry. Pretty good light show, though. We'll also show stereo A, and we'd like to show this diagram because stereo A is speeding away from the Earth, giving us better and better imagery. So there's the difference imagery over on the right. Not bad, not bad. It's got a very dense core, that CME. A lot of that staying kind of coherent as it blasts off, and you can see the way it dissipates. Not all CMEs do that, but that one certainly has. Next are our custom coronagraphs. Oh, and here at the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name of News, we've got some sweet custom coronagraphs. Dag. That ain't bad. 24-hour video featuring Lasco C3 in blue, C2 in red, and the SDO 24-hour video. Now, there is a more recent coronal mass ejection happening right now. It's happening in the northeast. And we'll get to that here in a moment. First is our equatorial zoom. Massive plasma filament in the south central portion of the solar disk, and just a quick reminder that the solar flare watch remains for at least 36 hours, probably more like 48. And that is where our custom videos end and our filaments section begins. So, filaments. Magnetic fields suspend them high off of the solar surface. Let's switch to our colored image here. And look at the size of that filament right there. That one's getting a name. And let's talk about naming filaments. Here's how you do it. Head to x.com and then log in. Make sure you follow us at x.com, x.com/Smashomash, otherwise known as Twitter, and just follow the hashtag name that filament. I'm naming it the Charles Barkley filament. Come on. Seriously? Charles Barkley is not a blue check mark on Twitter. Are you kidding me? Fine. Oh well. Too bad. It's been named. It's too late for you to name filaments after your friends, foes, or yourself, because that one is now the Chaz Barkley filament. Anything less would be uncivilized. So check it out. CME happening right now, coming out of this sunspot area right here. That's unlikely to be earthly directed as well, although we'll be looking at the coronagraph data when it becomes available. It's probably too early to actually see that. Let's get the bonus features. First bonus feature is charging hazards. It's smooth sailing for satellites. No charging hazards. Goes electron flux here kind of low as space weather arrives once again, holding that electron flux down. It is actually an erroneous reading, but it does give us insight into space weather impacts in real time. There's the 1 year graph. And the next time that updates, you'll see a big dip. There's the forecast model by NOAA, and NOAA is showing a little lower dip. Next, the ionosphere. Notice how the F layer is at about 300 kilometers of altitude. Here is that layer. And it will have some anomalously low frequency regions. Don't worry if that's all Greek to you. We show the anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. It helps to eliminate normal seasonal variations in the ionosphere. That's why we use the anomaly from the 30-day median. That's what's going on. We'll also show the global ionosphere nowcast. GPS users, pay attention to the left side. Radio users, pay attention to the right side. It may help you. It may hinder you. Or you may be indifferent to it. Or maybe you're wondering what it is. Total electron content is literally free electrons to about 12,500 miles of altitude. The maximum usable frequency is the expected maximum usable frequency you can use with your high-frequency radio transmissions. You know, like if you want to talk to somebody in Europe or in Africa or in Asia or something. Here are our latest SDO intensitygram and magnetogram. And it's become time once again for you to press the like button. Because if you don't press the like button, your soul may be cast into an ever-deepening and darkening abyss of doom, destruction, and various other unwanted things, like bad YouTube content. Press like, press share. If you're new to the channel, press subscribe. And make sure you do not tell YouTube that we're out here making videos shirtless. To quote Randy from Trailer Park Boys, I don't wear shirts. Check out the coldest place in the world. It's in Antarctica, and it's warmed up all the way up to negative 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Negative 78 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the world's coldest region. Let's find the world's hottest region. Is it Mexico? Guatemala? Could be. I think the Yucatan. Or no, right here. I think that might be the hottest place in the world right now. Yeah, about 110 degrees. 110 degrees there. In southern Mexico. 109. Anyway, let's show the world's wind patterns. These are the surface winds of the eastern world. Shout out to our viewers from the east side. Here are your jet streams. Shout out to our viewers from the central world. Surface winds. Shout out to our viewers from the west. I guess I should turn this even further, because the west goes all the way to way over there. All right, anyway. There are the Americas surface winds, and there are the jet streams. Doubled up jet stream over North America. And the Atlantic. Uluru. What do you know about Uluru? It's a very strange rock formation. And it's got an oasis surrounding it. I imagine it probably acts like an aquifer. Uluru. Located right there. Kind of in the middle of nowhere there in the Australian outback. Kind of right smack dab in the center of the country. It's Uluru-Kata Tuta. Uluru-Kata Tuta National Park. And yeah, if you're not familiar, it's a giant standalone rock. I think it's made of sandstone or something. I'm not totally sure on that. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. A very interesting place indeed. And a very interesting rock formation. All right, anyway. Getting back on track with meteorology here. Satellite imagery is next. How awesome is that? That you just have access to incredible satellite imagery like this. Here are our sea surface temperatures. Figured I would show that for a change. We haven't looked at sea surface temperatures for a while, so there you go. Windy.com is a great mobile app you can download. We have quite a few weather warnings here. If your location is lit on the map, click your location. Weather.gov is the home page of the National Weather Service. That is more counties than we would be willing to cover. But here come some forecasts. 72-hour GFS are the type. This is pressure and precipitation. I'm not going to try to explain it. Read the map. A picture says 1,000 words. And a GIF is a series of pictures. Here's our accumulated positive snow depth change forecast for the next 3 days. Don't trust channels that show you 3-week forecasts, as the accuracy goes right down the drain after 3 days. Right down the drain. Interestingly enough, things haven't gotten much better for weather forecasting since the late 1980s. And also, by the way, folks, I noticed that they've been underestimating high temperature forecasts for the past 15 years. 15 years. So, take that into consideration. Next is our accumulated positive snow, total accumulated precipitation in inches. Texas and Louisiana, also Nebraska. I'm sorry, Kansas. Especially Texas, though. Going to have some major flooding there. Texas, Kansas, Louisiana, and a bit of Oregon. And last but not least, temperature anomaly. Temperature anomaly in degrees Celsius. 72-hour GFS model, and that is our final forecast. It's the final forecast of our customly made gift animations. Next, lightning, and there's been some in the center of the country. And that feed doesn't look great, so let's take a look at a real-time lightning map, courtesy of blitzortungslightningmaps.org. Only some minor thunder showers across the U.S. at the moment. The strongest one being near West Plains, Missouri. Doesn't look too evil. We'll close out with Doppler radar, satellite, and clouds and water vapor for the lower 48. So there you got a mixed bag. Not a mixed bag of hallucinogenic drugs, a mixed bag of showers. There's your satellite imagery. And there is your water vapor map. And that is your recap. And this is me closing out. Encourage you not to view crap on YouTube. Go out and do stuff. Make hay while the sun shines, and it certainly does. We'll be back again tomorrow, but in the meantime, may that solar wind be at your back.